Hello, my name is Inji Kaya from Kaya Consulting Group. I'm here today to share 8 common pitfalls that I've seen businesses encounter when they're trying to put together a market sizing study. These 8 pitfalls that I'll share are excerpted from my workshop titled The Art and Science of Market Sizing and Forecasting. A little bit about me if we haven't already met. My tagline is turning blind spots into insights. And if I had to pick 3 or 4 bullet points to summarize what I do, that's market research, that's strategic advisory, providing independent third-party views, and providing consulting and advisory services. I'll tell you a little bit more about what I'm doing, what some of the other workshops that I cover later. But for now, in the interest of getting right to it, I wanted to share what those 8 common pitfalls are that I've encountered and what I would encourage you to not do. So here they are, assumptions. I'll tell you a little bit about each of those now. Methodology, implications, caveats, data accuracy, competitive market, failing to take into consideration the competitive market. Similarly, failing to take into consideration the supply and demand, most importantly. And finally, but not least importantly, taking a comprehensive approach. So let's run through each of these in turn real quick. Assumptions. Market sizing often involves making assumptions about things like market penetration rates, growth rates, or customer behavior. If these assumptions are not explicitly stated and validated at the beginning of the model in a way that everybody can understand and track, they can lead to inaccurate conclusions. I have seen instances where very few assumptions are explained. There's a lot of knowledge that the person creating the deck knows, but it's not expressed. So if somebody else were to take on that role to continue the market sizing practice 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the road, they might not be able to follow the assumptions that were originally used. So what concerns me is that assumptions in market sizing models are implicit. They are not listed. What would give me a lot more reassurance is if they were explicit, if they were listed in a way that somebody else down the road could follow and understand. The next bullet point is about methodology. It really just means clearly explaining how the market size is calculated. This is crucial. If the methodology is not transparent, it's just going to be difficult for others to understand the basis of the estimate and assess how valid and reliable it is. So what concerns me about methodology is if it's not clear. If it's a back of the envelope type calculation, when you hear round numbers and millions and billions, that should give you a reason to pause and be concerned. Another thing that concerns me about methodology is there isn't always a clear definition of what it is that's being counted. And at the end of the day, it's just not easy or intuitive for others to understand. What would make me reassured, or what I would find more reassuring, is if the methodology was clear, if it was quantified and documented, if there was some kind of a defined taxonomy, so we're all speaking the same vocabulary, and ultimately it's easy for others to understand. This is critical. Sounds straightforward, but it's not always the case. The third one is when people fail to consider the implications. Just stating a market size isn't really enough. Any analysis you do should also address the implications of that size. What does it mean for the business? What is the opportunity? What's the potential profitability? What's the competitive landscape like? So what is concerning for me when it comes to implications is it's not clear. Have the implications been considered? Has the so what been addressed? Have different scenarios been addressed? What would reassure me is if I saw implications clearly stated, right? And that includes shortcomings as well, the limitations of this model. It's okay to not know everything and have 100% accuracy. This is an estimate after all. And it's reassuring to me if I see several different scenarios considered and built into the market sizing model. The fourth concern I have is caveats, right? It's basically not acknowledging upfront where you might be wrong, right? We're all making decisions with incomplete data, And so acknowledging the potential sources of error, the limitations of the analysis, the limitations of the data, it's not a weakness. Instead, it helps build credibility and provide some transparency, right? So it's just gives a chance for everybody to be realistic for the market, for the market potential. So it is concerning to me if this is overlooked and if the market size is not adjusted accordingly. And it is reassuring for me to see if these caveats are addressed or incorporated in the body of the market sizing study, and the market size is adjusted accordingly. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say here is that the market size is not a static number. You have to understand what the shortcomings of the data that you're working with are, and accommodate for that, room for error. The fifth common pitfall that I see is data accuracy. The accuracy of the market size estimate depends on the quality of the data. I'm sure you guys have seen enough articles and publications regarding garbage in, garbage out. So the quality of the data, if you're using outdated information, unreliable information, biased information, this could be cause for concern. So I'm going to be very concerned if the market size you're building has unclear sources, has questionable sources, has biased sources, right? We can always cherry pick the data we want to see, but that's not really going to give you the right solid foundation if you're building a market size. What will reassure me and should reassure you is if you have clear sources, reliable sources, and unbiased sources that you're using to develop your market size and forecast. The sixth bullet point is the competitive market. If you're ignoring this, basically this is understanding the competitive landscape is crucial if you're going to accurately size the market. Understanding the market size of existing players, what are their strengths and weaknesses, and understanding what alternatives people have when you're assessing the size of the market, including not purchasing whatever solution you're looking to sell. So it is concerning for me if I do not see the competitive market addressed, if I do not see the alternatives for buyers addressed and accounted for. And on the flip side, I'll be a lot more reassured if the market sizing method or worksheet you're sharing with me is clear on the role of the competitive market. It's clear and incorporates the alternatives that the potential buyers would have. The seventh one is not considering the supply and demand factors. So this is like production capacity, supply chain logistics, customer demand, sales cycles, propensity to buy, how much of a priority your particular solution is to the buyers. And that all plays a role in determining the size of the market. So it's going to concern me if these factors are not considered, if they're not included and incorporated in the assumptions. And it's very reassuring to see if the supply and demand constraints and limitations are considered and are included in the assumptions. Last but not least, using a comprehensive approach. Now, this is really the sensibility test, right? Does this make sense? That's it. And that means you have to not just take a top-down approach and a bottom-up approach, but you have to kind of pull those things together. It should be a comprehensive analysis, and it should basically contain all the bullet points we've spoken to, these prior 7 bullet points. Now, it is concerning for me if only a top-down assumption has been used, right? Or a bottom-up. They'll usually start with a number from today and multiply it by 10 and say, here's the AIR that we're going to generate in the next 3 years. And well, that kind of fails to take into account the does this make sense factor, right? We can multiply any number by 10 or 15 and come up with millions and billions, but there's usually a cap to the market, and we just want to make sure we're not missing that, especially when betting millions and billions of dollars or looking for that kind of funding from investors. So these are the 8 common pitfalls that I cover in my more extensive workshop. This is a little sliver from that sampler from that workshop. And I have some other workshops that I deliver to work companies. So if this is of interest, you might also find other topics of interest like revenue models, finding the best fit, differentiating between your products and services, and creating memorable products, market sizing and forecasting, we just shared a little bit about, strategic planning essentials, and several other topics. I am Inji Kaya with Kaya Consulting Group, and I have just shared with you a little sliver from my workshop titled The Art and Science of Market Sizing and Forecasting. I've shared the 8 common pitfalls that I see happen when it comes to market sizing and forecasting. If this is of interest and if you'd like to talk more, I'd be very interested and curious to hear about what you've been doing so far. Thanks for listening. Take care.